It's good to see you today. We're going to be thinking about Moses, Aaron, and Joshua today, from when the Lord tells Moses that he is going to pass. Our hymn today is called Moses, Aaron, and Joshua.
Is not the law of 10 Commandments on holy Sinai given, nor sent to men through Moses' hands, and bring us safe to hand? Is not the land which Aaron built, nor smoke of sweetest smell, and by a pardon for our ill, for save our souls from hell? Aaron the beast resigns his death, that God's immediate will, and in the desert yields to death upon the pointed hill. And the sun adorns yonder side, the tribes of Israel stand, while Moses saw his head and died short of the promised land. Israel rejoiced, now Joshua leads, the wandering years have ceased. So far this Savior's name exceeds the ruler and the priest.
You might notice there in that last verse, if you didn't know, Joshua shares his name with Jesus. The names mean God saves. And as we think about the Lord being our Savior and all of these pointing towards Jesus, let's look at our passage now. In Numbers chapter 27, we read, "Now the Lord said to Moses, Go up into this Mount Abarim, and see the land which I have given the children of Israel." We know elsewhere from Pisgah. "And when you have seen it, you shall be gathered to your people, as Aaron your brother was gathered." Aaron has already passed. "For in the wilderness of Zin, during the strife of the congregation, you rebelled against my command." We looked at that a few days ago. "Then Moses spoke to the Lord, saying, Let the Lord, the God of the spirits of all flesh, set a man over the congregation." You might notice this is Moses talking to the Lord, saying, "Choose someone else who may go out before them and go in before them, who may lead them out and bring them in, that the congregation of the Lord may not be like sheep which have no shepherd." And the Lord said to Moses, "Take Joshua the son of Nun with you, a man in whom is this Spirit, and lay your hand on him, set him before Eleazar the priest, and before all the congregation, and inaugurate him in their sight. And you shall give some of your authority to him, that all the congregation of Israel may be obedient." And so Moses did as the Lord commanded, and we know Joshua is going to lead the people across the Jordan, as it is, into the promised land. Moses will pass away, says that the Lord buried him. So to think about our hymn, Moses, Aaron, and Joshua, and to think about these three individuals, I wanted to just make some simple points today in thinking about the Old Testament and the shortcomings of the Old Testament, how the New Testament is better. From Hebrews, it makes the point, all the priests, the high priests, eventually they had to stop. Eventually they couldn't do it anymore. Why? Because they all died. They all died. Just as Aaron died. And so they were, each one just served their time. Now, what allows Jesus to continue to serve? It's the resurrection. And that he is our eternal priest. And that's one reason he's so much better. Aaron wasn't perfect, and a lot of his imperfections were within his control. Golden calf account comes to mind. But then other imperfections, if you want to call them that, were not in his control, and that he could only serve for a time. And Jesus is so much better. And then there's Moses. Okay, you have the priest, and then you have the lawgiver. You have Moses. And the Lord spoke to Moses as a man talks to his friend. Moses died. He goes up on the mountain. And he dies there on Pisgah, not allowed to go into the promised land because he had not obeyed the Lord. He dies, and the Lord buries him. And then there's Jesus. And we think about how much better Jesus is. And we're not trying to cast aspersions at Moses. We're just pointing out the supremacy of Jesus. And that Moses pointed to Jesus as well. Your God will raise up a prophet like me, and him you shall hear, and whoever does not hear that prophet shall be utterly destroyed from among the people. That verse is quoted early on in the book of Acts. It's from, I believe, Deuteronomy. Moses died. He was buried. Do you remember at the Mount of Transfiguration what Peter says? There's Moses, there's Elijah, and there's Jesus, and Peter says, I'd like to build a dwelling place for each one of you. Tabernacle, I'll build 3 tabernacles. Remember what God says? All of a sudden the cloud envelops him. This is my beloved Son, hear him. And so we think about the priesthood changing. We think about the law changing. We might also think about Joshua himself. And you might think about, back in the passage, see, Joshua would lead the people into the promised land. But see, even here, it's like you will set Joshua before Eleazar the priest. And see, that's the wonderful thing about Jesus. See, these men, Aaron is not Moses, and Moses is not Aaron. Moses is lawgiver. Aaron is priest. Joshua leads the people, but Eleazar is the priest. David may be king, but Zadok's the priest. The king was not the priest, and the priest was not the king. The shadow of Jesus, and each one of those are a shadow of Jesus. But the shadow of Jesus, when you get to Hebrews, the shadow is Melchizedek. And one reason for that is because what was Melchizedek? He was both king and priest. And that's Jesus. The fullness is found in Jesus. And so, better than his priesthood is better than Aaron's priesthood. And grace and truth come through Jesus. Law came through Moses. I'm not saying Jesus doesn't have a law. There's scriptures of the New Testament. The law of Christ, the law of liberty. That's not liberty to sin, that's liberty from sin. That's why Jesus is better. Because he is prophet, priest, and king. He is the Son of God. He has a better covenant, better blood, better promises. And so we think about all these things pointing to Jesus, and we are thankful. We're thankful for the Lord himself. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another portion of our daily praise.